Hey everybody, Dominic here, and in this video I want to talk about what I feel can help to make a better online course and how we can avoid falling into the trap of creating a very mediocre experience for our learners. So over here in the blue, you'll see what I consider to be the very standard way that online courses tend to be built. So this would be a unit or a module in an online course. And you can see it starts off with, here's the competency that we're addressing, here are the learning objectives that we're going to tackle, here's a reading that I would like you to do, watch this video, look at this PowerPoint, and then it all culminates with, I want you to go post in the discussion board about everything that you've taken in. Now, I'll be honest, I think that a learner is going to feel like this is a rather lackluster experience for them. And there's a lot of improvements that we could make to this type of an experience. And let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. So to start things off, even before we do address the competency and the learning objectives, the first thing I would do is a welcome video for Unit 1. And in that welcome video, what I would do is I would prepare students, okay? Prepare students for what is to come. Give them an idea of what the unit's going to look like, okay? Maybe highlight some things they should pay attention to, but just prep them, get them ready. And it's also a great way to have you be there. And I've talked before about weekly check-in videos. That's exactly what this is, a weekly check-in video where we can prepare them for the week ahead. Okay, so that's one thing that I would do. Then, yes, I would address the competency, the learning objectives, but then at that point, before we start having them pay attention to the content, there's two things that I would do. Okay, the first thing I would do is I would address why this matters. Okay, you're about to have your students take in all of this content and do stuff. Why are we doing it? Okay, I think it's really important that if you're going to task your students with reading something or watching something, you should let them know why they're doing it. And the reason is not so that they can get a grade. Okay, that's not the reason. The reason is because we are providing them education that's going to build the foundation of the career that they are going into. And everything that they are learning should feed into that in some way. And it's your job to help translate that and make them care and engage them in that topic. Okay? Now, something that goes along with this is I would also draw upon prior knowledge. Okay? Odds are your students may have some understanding of whatever this topic is that they are about to embark on. So let's talk about it. Let's have students share, what do they already know about this topic? Now, the way that you could do this, well, you could do it a number of ways. I mean, you could do a discussion board, that's a possibility, in which they share their ideas. You could have a flip grid in which you'll have different students, share all their post videos and just give a little 2-minute blurb about what they think they already know about it. You could do a collaborative document. You could do it a number of different ways, but let's talk about what they already know. Not only will this help to bring things back to why it matters, it's going to prime them. It's going to help get this idea in their head so that when they move forward from here, this topic is kind of fresh for them. Okay, so we want to draw upon prior knowledge and see what our students already know. Okay, now from there, we could have readings that we're going to have our students do. If you're going to do readings, I would say it's important to give them a little bit of guidance there as well. So I might say, I want you to read this chapter. And as you read this chapter, I want you to pay close attention to X, Y, and Z. Okay? Perhaps even provide them with a graphic organizer that they can fill in as they're doing their reading. Okay? Just give them, again, a little bit more guidance. You can be using video content. Of course, we have to be careful what video content we're using. Make sure that if you're getting video content, it's from a source that you can dependably say will be here tomorrow. PowerPoints. Okay. I put PowerPoints up here with a red arrow for a very important reason. And here's what I'll say about PowerPoints. PowerPoints don't stand on their own. What do I mean by that? I mean that embedding or linking a PowerPoint into an online course and telling students, hey, here's this PowerPoint that I normally would share with you in a face-to-face course and talk about, but we're online, so I'm just going to give you my PowerPoint and you can look at it yourself. That's odds are that's not going to provide them much of anything as far as gaining knowledge, okay? Think about if someone just sent you their PowerPoint that they would normally do in a lecture format and say, here's my PowerPoint, go ahead and look at it. Do you really think you're going to retain a lot of useful information from that? Are you going to look through those slides and really comprehend what they're trying to get across? Granted, it could depend on the way in which the PowerPoint is structured, but I really don't think this is a good idea, okay? An alternative might be for you to do a video recording of you lecturing through your PowerPoint. That's a possibility. That's a little bit better because now at least you're giving it some context, okay? But I would not just put the PowerPoint out there unless it comes with some supporting information, some supporting material from you, and it's actually going to lead to a useful outcome, okay? Discussion boards, that's the other one that I put in red here with the red arrow. And here's the reason that I marked it in red. Is a discussion really appropriate? And what I mean by that is I have often seen discussion boards used in contexts where discussion's not happening. They're just posting their answers, and everyone has the same answer. What discussion's happening? I think discussion boards can often be relied upon way too heavily. And in all honesty, I think discussion boards can be the easy way out. I'm not saying discussion boards are bad. They're not bad. But we just have to think, are discussion boards really the best way to assess our students' knowledge? Are we engaging our learners? Does it seem like they are applying critical thinking skills, and are they actually putting together these thoughts into something that represents their understanding? Okay, I think discussion boards, yes, they serve a purpose, but we shouldn't rely on them too heavily, and we especially shouldn't get too repetitive with them and have every single unit have a discussion board. I mean, that can just get a little too dry, honestly, after a while. So these are just a few thoughts. Now, this point about discussion boards and are they really appropriate? Well, what are some alternatives, okay? If we're not going to do discussion boards, what should we do? Well, this is not by any means an exhaustive list, but here are some ideas of things we could do, and I've done videos on these topics before, but I kind of wanted to list them out and talk about them a little bit. So, first of all, an interactive slide deck. This is the idea of utilizing something like Google Slides or PowerPoint Online, not in this way of just sharing my lecture PowerPoint, but creating an interactive experience. So if you go back and watch my video on the Google Slide gallery walk, or doing Venn diagrams with a slide deck, or I've got a number of other activities, but essentially turning a slide deck into a workspace in which students will go in collaboratively and they will put together different ideas, share their thoughts about why they put it together that way, and then give feedback to their peers. It's essentially a much more visual experience of a discussion board and can lead to a much more creative product once all is said and done. And it's much more likely that people are going to look at each other's content than a discussion board. I think we're all familiar with discussion boards where people post once and never look back. And yes, we can give the requirement of go reply to two of your peers. Okay, they reply to two of their peers and never look back. With an interactive slide deck, if we have the learning artifacts that they create be something that is going to be applicable to their summative assessments, this is something that's going to be much more referenced as students move forward. Collaborative documents, kind of the same idea. We can build a template and do a lot of different things with a collaborative document. We could be making a wiki through a collaborative document. We could be doing group research projects with collaborative documents. A number of different things that we could do with something like that. Video-based scenarios. I think at this point we should all be aware of how easy it is to create videos, and that our students by and large have a means of creating videos. Now, that's not always the case, and it is important that we assess whether or not our students have the ability logistically to create videos, okay? And if they don't, those are situations that we should try to find a solution, okay? Because honestly, we should be able to reliably have students create videos if the learning objectives indicate that that would be a great way to assess their understanding, okay? And so we can have them do role plays. We can have them do, for and against videos. We can have them do so many different activities with having them create their own video content and sharing it with you and sharing it with their peers as well, okay? And whether that's using ARC, which is in Canvas to create videos, or having them use Flipgrid, which is a free application that we can embed into Canvas, I think there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do with video content. Learner-generated artifacts, I'm really referring to things like having students create an online site, like a Google site. That could be a learner-generated artifact, or some other type of content in which students are basically applying some creativity to create something, an illustration, utilizing something like Google Drawing to put together a visual that represents a concept. Some of that goes back into the interactive slide deck with like Gallery Walk, but there's a lot of tools out there that we can utilize to pretty easily like put together flow charts, put together mind maps, put together digital artifacts from different locations and kind of pull it all together. A lot of opportunities there. Project-based assessments, I think that there's a lot of value, I think, to having students build over time, over the course of a semester, a project and have them have these checkpoints along the way where they reflect and they iterate and they get feedback from their peers. And there's just a lot to be said for that, especially if by the time they're done, they have created something that they can actually take some amount of accomplishment in, and it's not something they want to just get rid of. They want to keep, they want to show it to an employer and say, look, I did this. If we utilize something like a Google site, we can make an e-portfolio of content that students have created that they get to keep and take with them. So a lot of potential there. And real-world exploration. It depends upon the subject matter, but getting students out into the world and maybe conducting a survey with actual physical people, or doing some kind of photo collage of what they're seeing in their environment, or any number of other things. And the way in which they display this could be very creative. One example is I talked a few videos ago about ThingLink, thinglink.com, where I can take a still image and then put little pinpoints that you can interact with. And so there's a lot of potential to take what they see in the real world, utilize that kind of a tool, share it with their peers, and discussion can be had as a result. So really the goal of this video is just to get you thinking about how we can improve upon the way in which we're conducting online courses. And let's get away from doing it in such a dry, bog standard way, okay? And start thinking about how can we innovate and engage our learners and make sure that they are thinking critically about these topics so that when they're done with the course, they'll have a much better understanding and they may actually enjoy their online courses. Thanks for watching.